All right, we're live, everybody. So first off, I'd just like to say, thank you everybody for tuning into this podcast. This podcast, we're gonna be talking about the election, some of our views and opinions on politics. And before we start, I'd just like to say that I respect every one of your guys' opinions,
Hmm.
and I think it's awesome that in America that we're entitled to say what we want to say and have that freedom to have this conversation. So.
All right.
All right, so let's talk about the election. What are your guys' thoughts about this whole election?
First of all, let's talk about how long this took.
Oh,
Now, I cannot remember the last time that it actually took this long to get the real results.
I feel
Yeah.
like it was just a huge debate all over the place.
right.
All over the place. It
Yeah.
was crazy.
The memes were pretty funny.
Yep.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, we got some
Yeah,
really good
they
memes
were.
out of this election, definitely. I think taking an issue we had during this election were mail-in ballots. I think there are a lot of issues revolving around them, and uh, like there's some mail-in ballots still in from Seattle. I read an article about it. Last that I heard that the police were working on the case, but I don't know if these mail-in ballots were ever found or not. So that's a little scary to hear about. What are you guys' thoughts about that?
Well, yeah, it's kind of scary, but then people who also had the mail-in ballots that sent them in and they didn't even count them, kind of
Yeah.
like what you're saying, and like they were never found, so their votes really just didn't even count.
Right.
And I don't know. I feel like that was definitely like an issue with this year's election.
Yeah, and I also read an article about how they're in Michigan, their electronic voting systems, they were put on like this new update, and that caused lots of failure to their electronic voting wise. Trump's votes for Trump were also going in as votes for Joe Biden. So I heard they were working hard on the case to figure out what was going on there. So that's a little sketchy in my opinion. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
I feel like that the whole thing was just, it was a good idea for COVID and all that.
Yeah.
But like they should have like gone over it more and made sure nothing would go wrong.
Yeah, no, COVID definitely impacted this election, and
And
I don't think it was a positive impact at all.
yeah, but like also kind of like what you were saying. Like, wait, so what were you talking about? Like before Ella even answered that.
The electronic voting in Michigan.
So I feel like some people might believe that that was rigged in some ways, and some don't, and that's just their opinions. And I feel like this would not have happened if we didn't have those mail-in ballots. But also, like
Right.
Ella said, it was a really great idea for COVID, and it
Yeah,
was
just to
something
keep that whole safety aspect alive. Mail-in ballots are good. All right. So now we just wrapped up talking about the overall election and our thoughts on mail-in ballots. So now we're gonna be talking about Trump and Joe Biden and what Trump's presidency was like. So our first topic we would like to address is human rights. So Delaney, would you like to start us off?
I would actually. So I don't know, but I just feel like human rights is definitely one of the most important things, in my opinion, in the world today.
Yes,
And yeah,
I mean human rights. It's a key principle in America. We're able to have freedom of speech. That's a huge one that many other countries don't have. So I'm very thankful for that.
and
Is that
people,
right?
yeah, people who do have freedom of speech, they do say everything that's on their mind. Like some
See,
people,
you know what? I think freedom of speech is starting to get a little heated. I
especially
know there's
right
college
now.
campuses that have been suppressing what some students want to express. And during President Trump's presidency, he signed an executive order on protecting freedom of speech on college campuses, surrounded by student activists who have said that conservative views are suppressed at universities. I think that's a big issue right there. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts about that, Delaney?
Well, I don't know if my thoughts are kind of directed towards that. I think that it's more about other communities, kind of like people who are in like the LGBTQ and people of different races and women and everyone.
Yeah, yeah.
like
Well,
those.
we'll get into those discussions later. But for human rights, freedom of speech is very important. I know,
Yeah.
social media is really good of suppressing people's ideas on what they have to say. Uh, in 2019, like May of 2019, I don't know if some of you guys are familiar with him, but he's a podcast guy as well. His name's Alex Jones. He might be a little crazy sometimes, but he was banned from Facebook, and that's limiting freedom of speech. So
Yeah, but
that's
he was banned from Facebook for saying things that should not have been said.
no, he's just expressing his political ideas. So
I mean,
I
it's
disagree.
okay to express what you believe
I
in,
I
as
just
long as you don't go too
I don't
far.
ever hear stories of more left people getting banned from Facebook or YouTube. There's many right wing podcasts on YouTube that are getting demonetized. They're not getting their revenue from ads just because they're expressing their political ideas. Like what do you think you have to think? Because you're more of an independent person in the middle. What are your thoughts?
I don't think that people should be discriminated against because of their political standings, but I also think that if the owner of Facebook wants to ban someone, if that's his website, he should be able to ban whoever he wants to ban.
Yeah, I feel like that, yes, people can express whatever they want to say, and, like, I respect everyone's opinion, but, like, some things need to be limited, but, like, not too much.
Like that's going back to part of our personal freedoms, and if
Although really the biggest problem is you're entitled to your opinions, but you're not entitled to your own facts, which is a phrase that goes around. And I think that's probably one of the biggest problems with banning people is fake news. You're entitled to your opinions, but not your own facts. But I definitely agree that it's a problem on both sides of suppressing people for their political opinions.
Yeah, that's true. So what other human rights do we want to talk about, Delaney? I think you said you have a few in mind.
I do. I think that even though some people might not want to talk about this, I think people who are in the LGBTQ community should be talked about because they do, like, they were scared for
Yeah,
their
yeah.
rights.
So I know people get the conception that Donald Trump is not a fan of the LGBTQ community, or
Which he has also said multiple times.
I think he does support them. I don't think he would put Patrick Bumate, and he's an openly gay Filipino man, as he put him as the what was it, I think it was like the ambassador of Germany or something like that. He also has done many good things for them. And if you look at Joe Biden, when he was a senator in 1994, Biden said that he would support cutting funding to schools that portrayed homosexuality as a positive lifestyle.
But have you also heard in interviews
Oh,
Donald Trump
hold
would
on.
talk about
I accidentally
doesn't
I got
support
a
gay
name wrong.
marriage?
Can I say something? I totally forgot I got the wrong name mixed up. I meant to say we didn't have, like, nobody really praised the president when he named it. It was Richard Grenell as the ambassador to Germany. Sorry, I got those names mixed up. It was Richard Grenell, and he's openly gay. So
Yeah, and that's not here in the U.S. Like,
well,
that's not.
yeah, it's the ambassador that they work with Germany.
Yeah, but Donald Trump doesn't really have the rights over him. Like, he doesn't have the control.
That's giving a man a really important job title as ambassador. So
Although Donald Trump, there have been, like, a ton of things he said about the community, there have also been things going on around about Joe Biden.
Yeah, like, I'm
Yeah.
not saying it's one over the other. I'm just saying
And
that overall,
one
I
thing
feel
being
like
like
that's
such
something
a
that we need to
one thing
discuss.
being in a like in the limelight, like Donald Trump and Biden are, is everybody's gonna like listen to what you have to say. There's not one thing that you're gonna say that nobody won't hear. So that is one thing on both sides that I'd like to say.
Yeah, they really need to be careful with what they say, especially now that they're in the spotlight.
And so that Patrick Bumate guy that I was talking about, the openly gay Filipino man, the president nominated him to be as a judge in the 9th U.S. Circuit Court. So, Delaney, what is the next topic we'll be talking about?
I don't know, what is it? You're the one that
Oh,
has
sorry, I
them.
thought you had it on your list as well. Relations with foreign countries. So, one thing that I think Trump really did well is negotiate and make deals with foreign countries. One thing I like to point out is Trump he became the first sitting U.S. president to step into North Korea. That is a huge accomplishment to talk about, because we always hear how North Korea is hostile and just other ideas about them. But Trump and Kim Jong Un actually got to discuss with one another, and Trump got to visit North Korea, so that was a huge accomplishment for Donald Trump. Do you have anything to say about that?
I mean, I think you're right. Like, that was a huge accomplishment for the U.S. and for him. But I mean, Joe Biden, he hasn't really done anything quite yet, because he hasn't even stepped into office.
Well, he has been in office as a vice president.
Well, yes, as a vice
and
president,
a senator.
but as the president, as the person who makes most of the decisions, he hasn't really had the opportunity to have relationships with other countries. It's always been.
Eventually when we get to talking about it, I would like to talk about Trump and China and what Joe Biden has to offer with China, but we'll get into that later. So, in January 28th, Trump issued a new Mideast peace plan. It was Trump and the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin. Trump announced that the leader of the self-proclaimed Islamic State, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, was killed by U.S. forces. That's huge. Yes, the name is a little funny, as you might want to say.
Okay.
But so I kind of got into two topics right there. I'll kind of dissect each one. So, in January 28th, Trump was able to end decades of violence and stuff with the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. So, I think that's another huge accomplishment that should be talked about.
Yeah, I will agree. He has had many accomplishments with other countries, and that is probably one of the things that he has done very well as a president.
And one thing I think we can talk about with foreign relations is, obviously the economy. Foreign impacts in the economy are, go hand in hand. So Trump has been, I'm sure you guys have heard about it. He's been fighting China with the trade war.
Mm-hmm.
China they're a powerhouse when it comes to trading. They have lots of manufacturers there, and so, Trump was able to limit the trade with China, and he focused more on American-made goods rather than Chinese-made goods. If you go
Cost
into
to the farmers.
yeah, if you go into a toy store, you'll see most toys are made from China. He's trying to limit that, because China has lots of power when it comes to trade, and that's very concerning. And as you know, our country has lots of debt. I think that lots of it is to China. And Trump is a savvy businessman. He stands his ground. Now, Joe Biden, he's a sweet old grandpa that everybody loves, So how is that going to deal against China? Is he going to fall under pressure? Or is he going to be
Trump has gone bankrupt multiple times because he blundered his way in his businesses and overspent and was not making enough money.
Yeah, he is the reason why we have more debt than we did at the beginning.
No. Trump has gone bankrupt as himself before presidency, but he's prevailed through bankruptcy. He's a smart businessman. He is savvy. He can cut corners.
He knows how to work the press. He knows how to work tabloids and magazines.
Yeah, he's a savvy person. He knows what he's doing when it comes to the economy. And quite frankly, I don't know what to think about Joe Biden, but we'll obviously figure out later on in these upcoming years with his this presidency. So I really hope Joe Biden prevails himself through the economy.
Honestly, Trump has really blundered his way through foreign policy. I mean, he's contacting foreign leaders and getting them to try and interfere in U.S. elections. And I mean, all the countries hate us. They pity us.
The whole Russian hacking conspiracy has, it's been debunked. They did not hack the election.
And the Ukraine call?
That I'm not informed about, so I'll have to do some research after this conversation about that.
That's with any election, though.
Well,
this
Ukraine call, he
Yeah.
called up the president of Ukraine and tried to blackmail him and was going to withhold aid. He wanted him to launch an investigation into Biden.
Interesting.
I didn't really hear about that.
I did not hear about that as well. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, dang.
Gosh.
Yeah, I didn't know that
presidents that were impeached could run again? I didn't know that was a thing.
He took it to court though,
Yeah, it
and he
wasn't,
got out
like-
of it. All right, so like I said, we are now talking about, is Trump a racist or sexist? So, you know, one thing that I think is very unfortunate, I being a fellow Trump supporter, I've been called racist and homophobic and sexist just because I support that man, and I've been called that from fellow classmates, friends, and I quite frankly think it's a little silly. I don't know why you would want to call anybody that is actually not that. So that's just something I'd like to point out. That makes me really mad.
Well, yeah, that's not right. Like, if you haven't done anything to prove that to people, then why would they say that? And even if they did say that, like, why would they say it to your face? Like, that is not right.
It's just horrible.
So, although Trump has said some things about that, I don't believe that his supporters think that way.
Right.
Mm-mm. I mean, some of them might, but not all of them do, and you can't just assume that.
Now, people always talk about, I always hear this in the halls or even on live television. Trump has failed to condemn white supremacy, and that's false. I have a statement that was pushed out by the White House after the Charlottesville protest, and it was on August 14th of 2017. If you guys want to hear, I could read the statement pushed out by the White House.
Go ahead.
All right, so. This is what Mr. Trump said. As I said on Saturday, we condemn in the strongest possible terms in the rigorous display of hatred, bigotry,
Bigotry?
there we go, and violence. It has no place in America. And as I have said it many times before, no matter the color of skin, we all live under the same laws. We all salute the same great flag. We are all made by the same Almighty God. We must love each other, show affection for each other, and unite together in condemnation of hatred. How do you say that again? Bigotry and violence. We must rediscover the bonds of love and loyalty that bring us together as Americans. Racism is evil, and those who cause violence in its name are criminals and thugs, including the KKK, neo-Nazis, white supremacists, and other hate groups that are repugnant to everything we hold as dear Americans. We are a nation founded on the truth that all of us are created equal. We are equal in our eyes of our Creator. We are equal under the law. We are equal under our Constitution. Those who spread violence in the name of bigotry strike at the very core of America. So that statement right there, I just like to apologize for the many times I could not pronounce words, but that statement right there is very powerful. And
that came from a speechwriter. So why wouldn't he do it during the debate? I mean, he was prompted multiple times, will you condemn white supremacy? And he said, yes, of course I will. And then he never did.
He asked like what he wanted them to say, and nobody gave him a direct response to that.
Well, he didn't give them a
He could have just straight up said, I do not support white supremacy. I condemn it. It is wrong and hateful. But he didn't say that. He said, yeah, of course I'll condemn it. And then started talking about Antifa.
So, I mean, just off of that, though, John, that is a fair point. I can agree with you there. That was a little weird, but this statement has shown that he does condemn white supremacists as well as racism. He does not like racism.
Wait. Can we stop for a second? How does that actually condemn it?
Right here it says we condemn in the strongest possible.
He didn't actually say that.
He said it in a statement, and I have another quote that I like to point out after a synagogue shooting that he hates racism. Says this was after a synagogue shooting that this is Trump's direct quote at a rally. Said the Jews have endured terrible persecution, and you know that. We've all read it, studied it. They've gone through a lot. And those seeking their destruction will seek their destruction. See, that proves that Trump is not a racist. He does not support people that support genocide or the hate of their skin colors.
I don't think
That's not really what that means.
Well, early in the year, we all know that there were some riots
Yeah.
and about police brutality. How do you think Trump handled that?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. It's still kind of going around, so not very well, in my opinion. And I mean, obviously, that's my opinion, and I don't have the right to say other ones.
Well, those riots are quite puzzling, actually. I mean, you have some peaceful, more protests, and then you have the other ones that are destroying local businesses and hurting the great economy that, Trump has built for us Americans. So that's a hard topic to really talk about. It's unfortunate that happened to that man.
It's not just that man. It's
right. It's
so
happened to
many
many people before, but I really disagree with people saying that Trump is a racist.
All right. Well, now you've had that. Now it's our turn to say other things. So let's talk about how he's sexist. Now, it's just my opinion. Now, I'm not saying you have to agree with me. I'm not saying that I'm right in any way, but I'm just saying he talks about women like they're just objects.
Yeah, he
And
has said some negative things about
many
women. I will
things.
agree to that.
And it's not right to do. And he continues to do it. Especially when he's mad, he just talks about it. And he even said one time during an interview that he was joking about dating his daughter. Now, how is that? How is that right?
He said, perhaps if Ivanka weren't my daughter, I'd be dating her.
Exactly. So how is that?
That's a little bit creepy.
That's like so creepy.
Yeah, but Joe Biden has also said some very creepy things about children that, if you want to, we can discuss. I mean,
Is it the thing with his leg hair?
the leg hair, children sitting on his lap. To me, I found that quite uncomfortable. That gave me goosebumps as I watched the video of him talking about that. It
Okay,
was
maybe like
horrible,
not
but
as many things that Trump has said though.
What are some things that Trump has said that have like really egged you on?
Like beyond. Well, let me tell you, he has said many things about how women should be punished if they do get abortions. And
okay. So on
obviously-
that abortion aspect, I will agree with you. It's the woman's choice. Okay.
Exactly. That's
I
right.
can agree with you guys on that one. That's just that topic is a little fuzzy to me. I'm not too familiar with like what abortions do to the human body by any means. I mean obviously I know like what the purpose, but I don't know like side effects on the person who does it. But to me, it would just be horrible if you were forced to raise a child that you did not want, that was caused by a crime a man did. That's horrible. That's why I really support your body, your choice. But Trump does have some female supporters, obviously. I'm sure you guys have seen the pink shirts, saying "Woman for Trump." I have a few quotes pulled up from female Trump supporters. One of which said, "If he's a racist and a sexist, then he's bad at it." And the one common thing I've been finding about these female supporters for Trump is that they really support his policies with the border and the economy. And lots of people are talking about how he's putting his vets first. These are all female quotes, by the way. So, he has said some weird things, but
Many
it's not like that
things.
Joe Biden hasn't said.
It's not just weird things though, it's disrespectful things. Things that some not even just women, like everyone
Right.
find horrible and rude and cruel. Like he one time talking to a lawyer, he said like she just had her baby and she was breastfeeding and she said like this is what I do, this is for my kid, and he shamed her for it. Like that's not right.
That's quite unfortunate, but like I said, I agree with Trump's policy more than I do with his personality.
I feel like Trump fails to recognize that at sometimes, like, he can't just say what he wants. And a lot of things that he has said have come off as very, how should I say this? Very, like
disrespectful.
disrespectful. And I don't know. He's,
Yeah, like
That's hard.
I agree.
yeah.
He
a
needs
lot.
somebody to monitor his Twitter.
Yeah,
Yes.
that is one of the weaknesses of Donald Trump. He's a little crazy when it comes to Twitter, but like I said, that's more of a personality thing than a policy thing. So.
Personality reflects character.
Yes, I agree.
Well, let's move on to our next topic.
The next one.
So one thing that I would like to talk about, being a hunter, is the whole gun debate. Again, that's, in my opinion, that's a human right. I think we deserve to, be protected by our own selves with guns. So, Joe Biden and Barack Obama had an assault weapon ban earlier in the years. Personally, I think the whole myth of assault weapons is quite silly. AR, people believe stands for American's rifle or assault rifle. It's not. It stands for the brand of the company that made it, Armalite. So, what are your guys' thoughts on AR-15s? Do you think they should be removed from the common people, or do you think we deserve the right to own them?
I mean, I don't really think that that right should be taken away, if I'm being honest. If I'm being honest, I really don't think that that right should be taken away. But Biden has come up with a plan to sell them in a way that has more of a background check and more.
Well, there are background checks.
Yeah, I know, but even a more in-depth one. And I
So
know
what-
that
what-
doesn't mean
What
that
do you think? What is a more in-depth background check in your opinion? What is that like? What is
Mental health records.
okay?
Yeah.
And he said there's red flag laws that they're checking. There is assault weapon bans that they are checking. There are universal background checks, like overall and everything that they have ever done
Okay.
in their life. Like all of that is being checked.
Okay.
And I know that this doesn't mean that they know exactly what's going to happen in the
Right.
future.
Nobody can predict
Like
the future.
you can't really do that, but they are trying to make it safer. And I
Yeah,
I do
I
agree with
respect
you.
I respect a stronger form of checking whether you're entitled to own a gun or not.
And I don't
think that's
that gun laws should be taken away.
right. I mean, like
I
cities
don't
like
think that
Chicago,
voting rights should be.
cities like Chicago have one of the strictest gun laws in America, and yet there's like most of shootings and such are occurring in Chicago because there's lots of gang violence that occur in there, and if guns get banned, there's still going to be ways to get guns. You're going to see a rise in illegal guns, which that's
That is one of the main arguments, or that people say is, well, I mean, if somebody really wants a gun, they're going to get a gun.
Yeah.
right.
And I think that is valid, but at the same time, just because they're going to get a gun anyway, does that mean that we want to make it easier for them? Because what about those people who want a gun, but they aren't going to go out and illegally buy a gun? Are we just going to hand those people guns too?
I feel like as Americans, we all have our Second Amendment right, and I feel like there are weapons that like need to be limited, like that cannot just be
What
given out to.
what are your ideas of the weapons that need to be limited? What are you really like thinking of?
I honestly don't know. Like, I don't know. I'm not a big person on weapons or hunting, so
Right.
I'm not very informed about that. But I just feel like if there was something that were to harm people very easily, that should not be given to citizens. But we do have our rights, and I feel like guns should not be taken away in that sense. No.
When the Second Amendment was written, the guns were like muskets, where you could, like, you have to like reload it after like one shot. And today we have like machine guns are like. I think that those
Well,
guns need to
machine
be
guns aren't in the
limited,
machine guns are not
taken away.
machine guns are not the hands of the common people, of
Well,
course.
it's not even just
not just
machine
machine
guns.
Like, do you know the difference between semi-automatic and fully automatic?
Nope.
Okay, so a handgun and an AR-15 are both semi-automatic, meaning if I squeeze the trigger, a bullet will fly out. Fully automatic, I hold down the trigger and multiple will go down the barrel. So as fast as you can squeeze is as fast as you can shoot. Whereas if you hold the trigger, you don't need any skill set, and it's all going to fly down range. So the common people cannot have fully automatics unless you're heavily licensed, which that's very select few. Oh, what?
What did you say, John?
The problem with AR-15s is they can be upgraded.
So what are your thoughts on the upgrades? What kind of upgrades are you talking about?
I mean, if you get a bump stock,
Yeah, but haven't bump stocks been removed off
you
the?
can turn it into an automatic.
No, it's still not an automatic. It's using the recoil to pull the trigger. And if you've watched videos on the ballistics behind it, a fully automatic rifle still shoots faster than a bump stocked rifle.
But why do you? But okay, so it's not fully automatic, but it has generally the same effect as being automatic. And I mean, at the same time, why do you even need that? I mean, what is the purpose of that?
You know, the purpose
You're
of
not
that.
gonna go hunting.
Well, you're not gonna use a bump.
AR-15.
Well, actually, you're not gonna use a bump stock to hunt. That's that's a little
Exactly.
ridiculous.
So why do you need it?
But AR-15s have been a farmer's favorite for ranch use. They use them to ward off, like in Texas. There's hog issues. They use them to get rid of hogs. Many people choose the AR-15 to start off hunters as well, like younger hunters. It's a less recoil rifle, so they're able to use it for their kids. Um, all in all, they're just also a great home defense tool to have at your hand. There's been many stories of people defending off, like 9+ home invaders and going after their home. That's at the end of the day, I would rather have an advantage on that than not being entitled to defend myself against 9 people. It's my life. I want to be able to live and prevail through that and not die in the corner while the police are on their way.
I just feel like it's too easy to upgrade it in that way. And I mean, there are other guns out there that would work fine, I feel like.
So, are you saying that if I use an AR-15 to defend my home, are you saying that I have a higher advantage against the intruders and that it's not fair against the intruders?
I'm not saying that at all. I just feel like for purposes of somebody who would do wrong things with it, try and commit a shooting, then I just feel like it's too easy for that to be upgraded. And
Yeah, and
I feel like other guns
shootings are
would serve the
unfortunate.
same purpose and they would do it just fine.
But one thing the media fails to cover is that most mass shootings are committed with handguns. But nobody really wants to talk about that, right? They want to go after the big black scary rifle. And another thing, back to what Makenzie was saying, the sole purpose of the Second Amendment was at the time they had muskets. Well, the sole purpose of the Second Amendment was to defend against a tyrannical government. So if our government happened to flip against us, that would be horrible. What would we have to use against them, right? So if you look at it that way, that's not good. Oh gosh, what was I gonna say? If we get invaded by a foreign country, America has a heavily armed populace. Therefore, we'll be able to take our chances against them.
That's what we have the military for, though.
Yeah, most of our military is out deployed in their stations, and so if it comes to it, if we need to fight off with U.S. citizens on the homeland, I think we have a really good advantage against that, and other countries don't want to mess with that. So again, I think it's okay if we have assault weapons or assault rifles or whatever you want to call them. I think it's good to have an advantage against a bad person.
I think we all agree with you that.
Yeah, like
Okay,
we're not
have guns,
arguing
we're just
against you. Like
saying
you're
that.
over here arguing so much, and we're just sitting here like, yeah.
I think
man.
we're saying is that there needs to be like stricter background checks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I totally agree with that. You go through a heavily detailed course to get a driver's license where you go through a background check to get a gun. Could there be a in-person course? Yeah, sure. That'd be amazing. I took one thing I recommend to everyone to do is take hunter safety. I learned lots of stuff throughout my hunter safety course. I learned basic gun safety, what you can't or can do with a gun, and how to just keep everybody safe away from them. That was a very educational course I took.
Although back to your one argument about most mass shootings being committed with handguns, I think that should also speak to the fact that handguns can be just as effective.
Yeah, definitely they are. I think a lot of people see a bigger gun and a small gun, and they assume that the bigger gun's more powerful and lethal, where they don't really know the background history between the two.
Which my point there is, then why do we need that big scary gun, as you say?
Again, I don't know if the name Stephen Williford rings a bell, but he was a Texas resident who defended a church shooting with his AR-15. So that proves my point
I
that
just feel like
AR-15s aren't bad.
there's-
They are good. It's just the people that sometimes they use them in a disrespectful purpose. Shootings are unfortunate, but I would also say that guns save lives. They do in fact take them, but if you look at the numbers, they save a lot of them as well.
I think honestly, guys, overall, that gun laws and rights shouldn't be fully taken away, but the laws should be more precise.
I do agree on a more in-depth way to get guns, such as maybe a course you take, like hunter safety taught me a lot. I think that'd be very effective for people to take. So I think that wraps up today's podcast.
I think it does.
Again, I'd like to thank you guys for all having this great conversation.
I support
We
all
found
of your opinions.
we found points that we agreed on, points that we disagreed on, and all in all, I think it was a really good, impactful conversation we had today.
Yeah, it was.
All right, thank you guys.